shot towards the end zone. Under touchdown. Trey Tucker. To the end zone it goes. Caught. Touchdown. Armand
It's Bearcat Blitz time on the Believe Network. I'm your host, Russ Heltman, your All Bearcats reporter over at allbearcats.com. Check out all the UC coverage there, where the portal is hot and heavy right now. The basketball coverage is hot and heavy. I mean, this is where we make the money in the calendar year, people. We are cooking all over the place, as is front office news. My guy, Neil Meyer, my co-host across the way right there. You can check out all his work covering the same kind of stuff. Portal, basketball team, all of the hot button topics around UC athletics, as he joins me once again as co-host. We continue this trek on Bearcat Blitz, looking at the Bearcats basketball team's 7-0 start. But first, we got to talk about the transfer portal happenings. A couple of big days ahead, and already a good start. As welcome in my guy, Neil Meyer, in just a second, before I tell you about the good people over at Bet Online. Our great friends and a great sponsor of the program. The holiday season is off to a hot start with NFL in full stride and the NBA and NHL hitting mid-season form. BetOnline is your number one destination for all your sports wagering info, with up-to-the-minute sports wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions. BetOnline is the top spot for everything pro and amateur sports, and not just the big four. BetOnline has info available at your fingertips with both desktop and mobile access at any time for almost any sport that's played, from MMA to international soccer. Head to BetOnline today, and remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on that first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. And you, of course, could catch us on Talking Cats with Russ Heltman, catch us on Valley Sports Ohio. Neil and I going to be taking the reins and going on air on Valley Sports this coming weekend. You'll catch our Thursday show, the preview of the Crosstown Shootout, along with we're expecting a special guest from the UC side of things as well. And you, of course, are most often listening to us on podcast forum, whether that's Apple, Spotify, Google, all of that good stuff. It is all available to you, whatever platform you'd like to check us out on. Throw us a subscription there and a rating as well, 5 stars preferably. Neil, the portal is open, my man, and the Bearcats have offered almost double-digit players so far, and we're not even, as we record this, to 1 p.m. on the opening day of the portal.
Yeah, man, and that's always the first time in the first day of portal season. You know, a bunch of offers are going to be out. They're up to almost double-digit offers, as you said. I mean, some of these offers are some big name players as well. So it's a hot season right now, especially after you're seeing nearly 20 guys go into the portal. So especially in the Big 12, you know, Scott Satterfield is going to be hot and ready with his staff out there to get these guys here to Cincinnati, try whatever he can do to get some of these guys to find a new home right here in the Queen City.
So let's kind of look at the offers so far. When we go back to last week, we got a guy like Upton Stout who got an offer, JUCO linebacker Keaton Thomas out of Northeast Mississippi Community College, Stout, who I mentioned, Jamori McClain, North Texas wide receiver, 5'11" guy, over 1,000 yards receiving, 11 touchdowns there. And also, as I mentioned, Upton Stout, who was a Western Kentucky cornerback, had a very nice season, 79.2 coverage grade according to PFF, and a career-high 81.2 grade overall to go with 29 tackles and 1 interception plus a forced fumble. That was kind of last week. And then when we look to today, Neil, similar kind of positional targeting. When we think about linebacker, we think about wide receiver, and we think about cornerback. Aiden Fisher got the call today from UC, an offer to the James Madison linebacker. He had a fantastic year, had 54 tackles, 1 sack. Excuse me, that was a different linebacker they offered. 91 tackles for our guy, Aiden Fisher, 1.5 sacks, a forced fumble this past season. Nice 72.4 PFF grade over there, I believe. In what is James Madison in the Sun Belt? I'm pretty sure. Yep. They're in one of the Group of 5 conferences. And then Ethan Barr, Vanderbilt linebacker, got an offer this week from UC. He was a little bit less impressive, I would say, compared to the rest of the offers. 55.3 PFF grade, had 54 tackles, 1 sack, and 1 forced fumble going in as a graduate transfer. That's kind of what we have so far to work with. We'll obviously touch on it again on we might not have time on Thursday to really touch on the portal with how much Xavier stuff we're going to have to get in a 24-minute show with the TV time restrictions. But when we go back to the portal in a week's time, there's going to be more stuff. But Neil, I would imagine they will continue to target wide receiver, linebacker, and cornerback ad nauseum until they find the right mix of guys to bring in and shore up, in my opinion, outside of quarterback, the 3 weakest positions on the team from last season.
Yeah, and it's great that you mentioned the wide receiver position, just a couple moments ago, maybe about 45 minutes ago, they offered Georgia State wide receiver Robert Lewis. As well, and that's a guy who's caught 70 balls, 877 yards, and 11 touchdowns this past season down there at Georgia State. So
third team all Sun Belt, solid talent out of there.
Yep. So that's another offer to keep a name on. And Aiden Garnes is another name, Duquesne defensive back as well. First team all NEC conference selection. Offered him earlier today as well. And then they also offered Purdue outside linebacker Kador Senor. So that's another big offer. So there's some offers out there going on for the Bearcats right now. And there's a couple people also in the mix that we won't really discuss yet. We're still trying to figure out some information on. But there's a lot of players out there in the mix right now that the Bearcats are offering. But just know Scott Satterfield and his staff are actively hitting the portal. And I know this is something he's talked about towards the end of the season where he was looking to add whether it be 10 to 14 guys via transfer portal this offseason. So that's the number target range right now that the staff is looking for that Scott Satterfield has talked about in post-game press conferences. So that's something to keep an eye on, whether in terms of the scholarship numbers that the Bearcats are looking to add here in the transfer portal.
No doubt about it, Neil. And when you look at a guy like Aiden Garnes, he kind of sticks out to me wholeheartedly. I think he's a player that could really take a nice leap from the FBS level to the FBS. FCS level, to the FBS. He's ranked 7th on PFF among all FCS coverage players, all FCS corners, I should say, in overall PFF grade, had almost a 90 PFF grade this season. I mean, he was a lockdown corner on the outside for Duquesne. And there are some maybe, like you mentioned, maybe some more offers that'll be coming from a big name program in the middle of the state here that we'll be monitoring
and one of
the
them
next few days.
Yeah, one of them just actually came in about 6 minutes ago via Twitter of Cam Martinez, Ohio State safety, just picked up a Bearcats offer as well just a few moments ago. So that's a little breaking news there.
There you go. It's all flying. It's all happening in the transfer portal window right now. Obviously, I don't think there were any additional UC entries since the last time we talked. There haven't been any over the weekend, correct, Neil? That you and I have in terms of needing to get to the people here and on the UC side of things.
Yes, correct. There has been no entries on the Bearcats side of things this weekend, but you never know how things might still go. Obviously, the exit meetings happened early last week, which was the time frame where we saw a lot of these players hit the portal. But there is some Bearcats that have been picking up offers. I recently saw Justin Watley just picked up an offer from Iowa State. So that's something to kind of keep an eye on, as the former Bearcat defensive end just picked up another Big 12 offer. So something to keep an eye on. There
you go. And when we look at the overall portal landscape as a whole, as we kind of wrap up the first segment of the show here on Bearcat Blitz, I'm your host, Russ Heltman, joined as always by my co-host, Neil Meyer from the Front Office News. Check out allbearcats.com and check out frontofficenews.com as well for all your Bearcats coverage needs. A lot of quarterbacks, Neil, so far entering the portal. And I think a fan brought up this point to me, and I think it's a great point. The more quarterbacks you get in the portal, the better for UC, because we don't know the exact budget they're working with in terms of NIL money. We don't know that down to a cent, but it's not going to be, you're not going to be able to shell out $1.5 to $2 million for a quarterback if you're UC. You're just not going to have the budget to do it. You're not going to have money remaining elsewhere to shore up some of those other worse position groups. And so I think the more quarterbacks you get in this portal, the more chances and the more breadth of talent, the more wide-ranging talent you can access, it's going to be better for UC and other kind of middle-tier Power 5 programs that are wanting to continue to improve their standing in their own conference, but don't necessarily, and especially for UC being 1 year into their Power 5 tenure, don't have that kind of war chest of assets to be able to throw at a guy like Kyle McCord, or who out of Ohio State, who entered today, or Dylan Gabriel out of Oklahoma, stuff like that. Maybe those guys are a little out of UC's price range, but they push down some of those quarterbacks that may have been out of UC's price range in a slimmer transfer portal window, but in a thick, wide transfer portal window, you might have access to those guys and be able to get a higher level of talent than normal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the market for the quarterbacks right now, I mean, for everything that's being reported, I mean, a good quarterback nowadays in the transfer portal, and I don't think people realize this, it's going to cost you significantly in terms of NIL money. I mean, you look at what Caleb Williams got, for an example, from USC after the video surfaced of him with the nice car. The NIL money for a quarterback is insane. Obviously, we don't know the exact budget for what UC is working with NIL, and that's probably something we won't find out if we're being honest. But overall, a lot of quarterbacks have entered the portal. There's some quality names out there. Obviously, Kyle McCord went in today. Dylan Gabriel went in for the third time. So there's a lot of quality names out there in the portal. And I would definitely kind of expect for the Bearcats to be kind of making a couple calls there at that quarterback position.
No doubt. And the big question is, how much improvement are we going to see out of Brady Drogosh from year 1 to year 2 in this program? Is it going to be enough for him to truly compete for that starting job and kind of entrench himself as the latest success story development wise for UC, which they haven't had one, Neil, since 2018. Now, they didn't need a success story over the ensuing 4 years with Desmond Ridder playing as well as he did and being one of the winningest quarterbacks in the history of college football. But the coffers are basically empty in terms of 1,000%. This is a reliable developing option in the program. Evan Prater gets hurt. We go down that line. He ends up having to switch to wide receiver. And now you're left largely with a question mark in the developmental pipeline for this program. A lot of stuff happened in the transfer portal. We'll, I'm sure, dive into it more on Monday's show, following a Xavier-centric, crosstown shootout-centric show on Thursday. But we'll take a quick break here on Bearcat Blitz and dive into that UC basketball team that, top 30 in KenPom, 7-0 record, and 8th best scoring margin in the country among a top 10, Neil, that features 8 Big 12 teams whooping up on their opponents. 8 of the top 10 scoring margin teams in the country right now reside in the Big 12. It's going to be a gauntlet once they start that thing up against BYU on January 6th. A little while to go before we get there, though, about a month's time. He's Neil Meyer. I'm Russ Eltman. This is Bearcat Blitz. Take a quick break. We'll be talking about UC hoops on the other side. Neil, you and I had a little discussion for the game yesterday, and the rankings might actually come out. The AP poll probably will be coming out right when we're talking about this right now. I was refreshing before the show to see if we could get it right at the top of the show and get the breaking news there. But I think they deserve to be ranked, the UC Bearcats, the 7-0 UC Bearcats. You and I discussed for the game yesterday, a 16.5-point betting line against Florida Gulf Coast. They beat the Eagles handily. I mean, they were up by 30 in almost near the midpoint of the first half. It felt like 99-62. The offense goes over 80 points for the 6th game out of 7 contests this season. And all the underlying metrics outside of the strength of schedule, which is in the 300s right now, I think lends the Bearcats to being a ranked AP top 25 team for what, Neil? Would that be the first time this decade? It would assuredly be the first time in the Wes Werler era that they would house inside the AP top 25.
Yeah, it would be the first time under Coach Miller, and that's something that hasn't been done since I believe the 2019-2020 season, maybe on the early part of that there. And it was definitely the time where they went back-to-back AAC championships. But, man, right now, the Bearcats are hot. I mean, they're coming in. They received votes in last week's AP polls. The polls do come out today at around 2 p.m.
2 p.m., okay.
I do expect the Bearcats to be climbing these polls, especially after what Georgia Tech did last week. They beat Mississippi State. They go on the road. They beat Duke. And then the Bearcats on the other side of things beats a Georgia Tech team by 30. So that win right there in itself holds quite a bit of weight right now. Obviously, Mississippi State lost again yesterday to Southern University 60-59. But that Georgia Tech win right now is something that holds tremendous weight. And people don't really kind of realize that because it was a early season game, but Howard was predicted to win their conference. Northern Kentucky was predicted to win their conference. Eastern Washington was projected to win their conference. So you have 3 quality wins versus teams projected to win their conference already. And now you're adding a Georgia Tech team who's starting to get the ball rolling. Everything is starting to click. Heck, those are 4 pretty big wins right there in non-conference. And now you have two big opportunities heading up to you. We won't jump ahead to Dayton yet because we got a big one on Saturday at the Cintas Center for the Crosstown Shootout. But a big opportunity looms ahead for Wes Miller and the Bearcats come Saturday.
No doubt about it, Neil. And an opportunity and a matchup that I think finally favors UC in a road environment. Like we're going to say this so many times, I think, on this show throughout this season for the first time this decade. Victor Locken is the pivotal piece for me. Can he come in and expose a smaller, less daunting front court out of Xavier than we're used to seeing out of them? You're not going to have, like, they're not going to have Jack Nungy there, obviously. You're not going to have Zach Fremantle there.
No, Jerome Hunter as well.
Jerome, he came back to practice, I saw over the weekend, but kind of he's not going to play. It's up in the air if he's going to play, right? We're not exactly sure.
He just got cleared to do light activities. Obviously, Jerome Hunter is someone who suffered a cardiac event this summer, so he's still kind of really working things back, but he just took the massive step, got cleared to do light basketball activity. Still to be determined on if he plays this season, but that's a huge step in the right direction for Jerome Hunter.
Right. So not going to be available this Saturday when things tip off at 6:30 p.m. inside the Cintas Center. Can Victor Locken and Aziz Bandaogo continue the strong upward trend we've seen out of them, and really along with Odio Guama? Odio Guama is playing good basketball as well. This front court is leading this team and driving this team on the defensive end, where they're top 35 nationally in adjusted efficiency, and the offensive end, where they're top 35 nationally in adjusted efficiency. Now, to get to that true national contender level, you need to be top 10 in both. But I see kind of a path for that to happen, especially if the guards continue developing. We saw Jizzle James was almost a plus 30 and right around 20 minutes yesterday against FGCU. He played very well. I thought the performance of the team yesterday, coming off of the 86-81 loss that you and I both agreed would be beneficial and would help them heading into Xavier. And I think CJ Frederick and Victor Locken agreed with us when we asked them about it in the post-game press conference yesterday. That's just a really encouraging sign. To beat the brakes off of SGCU, to just give them no hope, not play with your food at all, just go in there, take care of business, and set yourself up to have the most confidence possible going into your rival's home building that you haven't won in since 2001. It's a great, great thing that we saw out of the Bearcats basketball performance yesterday. And to me, Neil, it comes down to the guards. I kind of know we're going to get good play out of Victor Locken. We're going to get good play out of Aziz Bandaogo. Can Jizzle James and Day Thomas, after a shaky at best performance combined from the two against Howard, will they be able to swipe that under the rug and answer the bell as the lead ball handlers in a really tough environment that they're going to be playing in at Cintas Center this weekend? That's going to be interesting to see for me. But overall, Neil, when we look at this team through 7 games, you got to be very, very impressed and very encouraged if you're a Bearcats fan from what you've seen and just the way this program has just steadily stacked up and gotten better and better each and every year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for many outsiders, for the Bearcats fans, Aziz Bandaogo getting cleared was the piece the Bearcats needed, because they allowed Victor Locken to space the floor. They're able to do so much more different things on offense and defensively. They're able to do quite a bit of different amount of things. And I mean, we saw it. And over the last few weeks, I mean, Victor Locken had a performance where he went 5 for 5 from behind the arc. We saw it yesterday. Victor Locken went for 19 points on 8 of 10 shooting, 9 rebounds, and a career high 6 assists. So
1 for 1 from deep too in that game as well.
And Odio Guama stepped outside, knocked down a 3-ball. He looked really, really comfortable shooting that 3-ball.
Right, if it's wide open, take it. Why not?
And then also you look down at the stat sheets from yesterday, you're not going to see Aziz Bandaogo finish with just 1 rebound, and very often, to say the least. Your 7-footer ends with 1 rebound, but then you look on the opposite side of things, Dan Skilling grabs you 12 rebounds. And he has probably his worst shooting night of his career so far, just 1 for 7 in his 2 years. But look at the offensive side. He struggled a little bit, makes up for it on the defensive side, gets you a team high 12 boards. So overall, this team is a lot different, and I think they match up very well heading into Xavier. And this might honestly be the best crosstown shootout matchup since that 2017 season, which is the last time the Bearcats started the season 7-0.
Yep, and they dropped that 8th game at the Cintas Center. We've said it continuously. We'll keep saying it since 2001. They have not won on the road in this rivalry. And we didn't even mention CJ Frederick right there. I mean, he went 6 for 7 from the field, 5 of 6 from deep. I'm pretty sure he looked like a sharpshooter out there, was hitting a lot of just dynamic shots, a lot of open shots for CJ Frederick. It's a well balanced, well oiled offensive machine and defensive machine. And when you brought up Aziz Bandaogo only having 1 rebound, to me, Neil, I kind of read into that more of when I was watching Aziz for spurts yesterday during the contest. He was doing a lot of box outs, doing a lot of clear outs, making room for a lot of guys. And then you can allow the athletic wings like Dan Skillings to come in and scoop those rebounds off the board. It kind of felt like Wes Miller kind of keyed Bandaogo in on Keyshawn Kellman, who was fantastic in the game. He was arguably the 2nd or 3rd best player on the floor, but ultimately just didn't have enough help from his teammates to make the 23 points he posted make a difference. I believe it was the 2nd or 3rd highest point total UC's allowed individually this season through 7 games. So he played really well, but he was obviously a guy you wanted to keep off the glass. They have Bandaogo kind of clear things out, and it just shows the team mentality, the team buy-in so far from the squad, and I'm excited to see how they look in practice on Tuesday as we get into some media availability for Xavier week. But we're going to take a quick time out here. And on the other side of things, we will kind of take a look at the season as a whole, take a look at their net ranking, take a look at the KenPom rankings, and see where UC stands as they have almost a full week, 6 days to prepare for Xavier. This is Bearcat Blitz on the Believe Network. Neil Meyer, Russ Eltman, we're here with you on Bearcat Blitz, closing out the show with a look at a 14th national net ranking in the initial net ranks for UC Hoops. That was a little higher than I thought it would be, Neil, but I guess it kind of speaks for itself when you have obviously not played a super difficult schedule. I think it's in the 309 to 318 range and adjusted team efficiency on KenPom, but you're blowing these teams out. You're top 8 and nationally in scoring margin, winning by about 17, 18 points per game. And you have handled your business against quad 4 and quad 3 opponents. Now they haven't had an opportunity to face. I don't think, did they have a quad 2 win? I know they don't have any quad 1 wins, but I don't think Georgia Tech quite qualifies for the quadrant 2 win just yet, even though they are ranked 120th in KenPom. I did not see where they were in the net rankings just so, but I mean,
the Georgia Tech win, hate to interrupt, they counted that as a quadrant 2.
Oh, is this quad 2? Okay, there you go. Perfect. 2. Thank you for correcting. And so they have one quad 2 win, and now you have a chance to go get that coveted quad 1 win. Your first chance of the season to get one of these at Xavier, who I believe is ranked 66th. They're in the mid 60s of the initial net ranking. So, Neil, this team is tracking. If they stay in the top 25 to 30 of the net rankings nationally all year, I mean, your hot take, your bold take from last week is going to look cold because they could be a 4 or 5 seed if they hold this kind of positioning all season long. Now, we got to pump the brakes a little bit. And on this very show 2 months ago, Dominic Goodman and I, Dom a little bit more so than me, but got a little ahead of our skis a little bit on how the opening few weeks for Cincinnati football went. And we saw how that went. I don't foresee a collapse like that happening at all for this Bearcats basketball team, but the competition level is obviously going to ratchet up intensively over the next few weeks at that. I mean, when you look at Stetson, Merrimack, Dayton, Xavier, Bryant, these are all teams in the top 180 to 190 in overall KenPom and net rankings. And that's something that is going to be different from the average 300s, low 300s level strength of schedule you face so far in 2023.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're talking about the net rankings. I mean, obviously, we're still in the non-conference thing, but if you're looking at the net rankings today after they came out earlier this morning, the Bearcats sit 14th. You look at who's ahead of them in those 13 other spots, 4 Big 12 teams. You have Houston at the top. You have Baylor at number 2, or BYU at number 2, Baylor at number 6, and then right ahead of them is Iowa State. So overall, you're looking at the net rankings that came out. yes, the Bearcats are ranked number 14, but you're looking ahead of them, and 4 teams ahead of them will be on the schedule for this season, and not even arguably, the best basketball conference in America. So overall, there's a lot of positive things to look forward to. Obviously, these rankings are just through the first 6-7 non-conference games, but definitely an exciting sight to see for Bearcats fans as the Bearcats crack number 14 in the first net rankings of the 2023-2024 season.
No doubt about it. And you can't, you play who you play. You play who's on the schedule, and all you can do is play your best and put up the best performance possible from those teams on the schedule. And they've done about as good as they can. 9th nationally, kept saying they're 8th nationally in scoring margin. 9th nationally in scoring margin with a plus 22.3 point per game differential, aided definitely by the 30-point blowout, 99-62 over the Florida Gulf Coast Eagles on Sunday. That'll do it for this episode of Bearcat Blitz. We'll be back on Thursday with an awesome show previewing the Crosstown Shootout, looking at the history a little bit in recent years, looking at the last time UC was 7-0, and also we'll mix all that in with a preview and our special interview. We should have a good guest on Thursday for everybody as we get Bearcat Blitz rolling into basketball season right here on the Believe Network. This has been Bearcat Blitz, presented by Bet Online.
Second and 6, Ritter to the end zone, looking for Pierce. Did he hang on? Yes. Touchdown. Here on the back beside Bitter. Here he goes again. Busts free. Jerome Ford down the sideline. Foot race. House call. Touchdown. 79 yards. Big one is a Peach Bowl. This is a big one too. And it's going to go